good to go.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's Warren City Council meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just real quickly, we apologize for the delay. Again, we had a closed session meeting that ran a few minutes over and needed a few minutes to get our paperwork in order. So with that,
Roll call, Madam President.
Mr. Bacamino.
Present.
Ms. Comartin. Present. Mr. Green.
Here.
Mr. Liss.
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski.
Here.
Mr. Stevens.
Present.
Ms. Vogt. Here. Mr. Warner.
Here.
Camp present.
Item number 4, adoption of the consent agenda.
Need a motion and
So
support?
moved.
Motion by Mr. Warner.
Support.
Support by Mr. Green. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, I'll call the question. Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Ms. Comartin.
Yes.
Mr. Bacamino.
Yes.
Mr. Liss.
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Ms. Vogt.
Yes.
Camp, yes. The motion passed unanimously.
Adoption of the agenda. Motion to approve with discussion.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Sadowski, support by Mr. Green. Discussion, Mr. Sadowski.
A few changes. First, Councilwoman Kathy Vogt has asked that her item 15B, as in boy, be removed from the agenda. The next is Councilwoman Comartin has requested an item to be added to the agenda tonight. That item will be, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 15C.
The original
Oh, I'm sorry.
request was mine, but I'm withdrawing that request, so we're making Ms. Comartin's 15C.
Mrs. Comartin's item 15C, authorized use of city property for city fair. That item will be added. There was also a request that was being made, a request to appeal of denial of fireworks permit to Dennis Robertson of Fit Entertainment. That item is going to be placed at item G1, which will be 11G1. And the reason for that is because our commissioner is going to be here for item 11F and item 11G. So we'll just try to combine that so he doesn't have to sit here the whole night. And Mr. Green, did you have an item?
Thank you, Mr. Sadowski. I'd like to add an item, proposed City of Warren, Warren Police Command Officers Association Collective Bargaining Agreement.
Because that will also involve the commissioner, I'll make that item G2. I'll read through those again. Councilwoman Vogt has requested item 15B, which is her item, be removed. Councilwoman Comartin has asked to have an item added, which will be 15C, as in cat. The firework appeal, G1. The WPCOA contract approval will be G2. Those are the changes.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Vogt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As far as my item regarding the closed gas stations, that will be back on the next agenda.
If that's your request, yes.
That is my request, yes.
Very good.
But I would also like to add a discussion regarding our auditor's contract.
Okay.
This is
We will put that at 15D.
D. Thank you. Yes, we could just put it as B.
That's fine too. 15,
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Thank you, Mr. Sadowski.
Councilwoman Kathy Vogt has asked to have discussion on the auditor's contract. She removed 15B. We will make her new item 15B as in boy. Those are the changes, Madam President.
Thank you. Any other discussion regarding the agenda? Seeing or hearing none, I'll go ahead and call the question. Mr. Sadowski?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Comartin?
Yes.
Mr. Bacamino?
Yes.
Mr. Liss?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Vogt?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Camp, yes. Passed unanimously.
Next agenda item is number 6, approval of the minutes of the special meeting of June 3rd, 2011. They were tabled on June 14th, 2011, and the regular minutes of June 14th, 2011.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Comartin?
I'd like to make a motion to separate the question because there are changes on minutes.
Being that one was tabled, I believe they automatically have to be separate. We have
Right.
to remove the one from the table.
Okay.
So at this point, will be
Motion to remove from the table?
the special meeting minutes of June 3rd. Motion by Mr. Sadowski to remove from the table.
Support with discussion.
Support by Ms. Comartin. Discussion, Ms. Comartin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. These minutes are posted on a website. Actually, it's the tape. And in my mind, and after reviewing that tape, these minutes do not reflect the discussion that had taken place. If anything, the acknowledgement of a couple council people that were acknowledged by the chair, matter of fact, Councilman Stevens and Councilman Green, their comments are not even reflected on these minutes. The other thing is, so I will not be in support of these minutes because they do not truly reflect the conversations that taken place. I think they need to be more detailed than what we have before us here. Secondly, through the chair to the city attorney, Attorney Biernat, in your statement, there is a statement on here. It says, Attorney Biernat confirmed that the notification was sufficient. I'm just asking you, do you feel that that was, that truly reflects what you stated in our meeting?
Best I can recall,
Your microphone.
pretty much what I said.
Microphone, Judge.
I believe I did indicate that something to that effect, if I recall.
Okay, something to that effect. All right. I think that needs to be reviewed a little further, too.
If I may, for points of clarification, Mr. Biernat?
Yes.
The members that were not present at this meeting, I don't see how we can attest to how the minutes were or weren't in their accuracy. Should they abstain from voting, or?
Yes.
I would think so.
We have in the past.
You looking for something?
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Should they abstain from voting? Is that what you're saying?
Right, on the
Yeah.
approval of the minutes. I mean, I realize they can maybe vote to whether remove it from the table or not, but as far as the approval of the minutes, I can't attest to what was said there.
No. It would seem appropriate that those persons who were not there would abstain because by voting one way or another, you're assuming or you're implying knowledge of what took place, and And the fact of the matter is, those who are not here have no knowledge, so it would be akin to a nullity.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Comartin?
if I make a suggestion that these minutes come back in more detailed form based on the tape that we have, because there were some council people's comments that were left out altogether.
Do you wish to remove your support for the removing from the tabling?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Anyone care to replace that? I have a motion to approve, or I'm sorry, motion to remove from the table by Mr. Sadowski. Any support for that? Support by Mr. Liss. Okay. Let me call the removing from the table in question. Mr. Sadowski.
Yes to remove.
Mr. Liss.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Ms. Comartin.
No.
Mr. Bracamino.
Yes.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Ms. Vogt.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Camp, no. The item has been removed from the table, 7-2. Now I need a motion and support on the minutes themselves.
Motion to approve?
Support.
Motion by Mr. Sadowski, support by Mr. Green. Was there any further discussion regarding these minutes? Okay, I'm going to ask that council excuse me from voting on the approval of the minutes and the fact that I was not in attendance of this meeting.
Make a motion to excuse Council Chairwoman Camp and Councilman Liss. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Support.
I'll support the motion, but I disagree with
Mr. Liss was not.
the parliamentary rule. I've researched this issue out, and if we're going to move to staying fine, but I think that people, even those who are not at the meeting, are still have an obligation to vote on approval of the minutes of the ministerial function. But I'll support your motion.
To excuse Ms. Camp.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Sadowski.
The only other question, does Councilwoman Vogt have to excuse herself from the minutes? Because she had to excuse herself from participating in the meeting.
Was she in the room, though?
She was in the room.
If she's in the room, I think she can attest to what was said.
Okay, I did,
That's my own personal opinion.
okay.
Okay, so I guess it doesn't matter. I asked to be excused. I had a support by Mr. Liss. I'll call that question. Ms. Vogt.
Yes, to excuse Ms. Camp.
Mr. Liss.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Ms. Comartin.
Yes.
Mr. Bracamino.
Yes.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski.
Yes.
And that passed 8-0. Thank you, members of council. And now back to the original motion on the approval of minutes. I had Mr. Sadowski to approve them, Mr. Green to support. Any other discussion? I'll call the question. Mr. Sadowski.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Ms. Comartin.
No.
Mr. Bracamino.
Yes.
Mr. Liss.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Ms. Vogt.
No, for the reasons stated by Ms. Comartin.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
The minutes have been approved. 6-2.
The next item is the
Regular meeting.
regular meeting of June 14th, approval of those minutes.
Need a motion and